Kia ora everyone, and welcome to this flip video on how to identify the audience and purpose of texts that entertain, inform and persuade. So different texts or books or stories that we read have different features that can help us to figure out whether the text is trying to entertain us, inform us or persuade the reader. Things like the language or the words that is used in the text, facts that may or may not appear in the text, whether the text brings out emotion in the reader, and text features like whether there are pictures or bold words can help us to identify what the text is for. So let's take a look at how we can identify certain texts. So texts that entertain often have characters, a setting, and a storyline. They will usually be imaginary or fictional. They have descriptive language that can create humour or suspense in a story. You can look for clues by if the writing is creative or emotional, or if it leaves cliffhangers or has funny situations. The audience for texts that entertain are usually children and people who are reading for fun or for pleasure and to make people feel certain emotions. Examples of these texts are comic books, picture books, made-up novels, and even plays, because to do a play you have to read a script. Texts that inform usually have factual language, so their language is backed up by researched information. They usually have headings or subheadings, diagrams, labels or photos, and they usually answer the questions who, what, when, where, why, and how. To look for clues, they usually have a clear structure, so they usually have an introduction, they'll point out all of the facts, and they'll restate what they're saying in a conclusion. They might have technical or subject-specific words, like if you were reading a text about sports, it would have words like dribble, pass, offside, end zone, or tackle. You wouldn't usually find language like that in a creative story like Dogman. They usually have no opinion or emotion, it's just facts. The audience for these types of texts are anyone looking for information about a particular topic. Texts that inform are newspapers, non-fiction books that you can get out at the library, newsletters, or texts in your journals that are usually informative. Texts that persuade are usually texts that have opinions or emotive language. They have strong reasons and arguments. Sometimes they include rhetorical questions, which are questions that don't always need an answer, but make the reader think. They often try to appeal to the reader's feelings. Words like you should, best, must, don't miss out are usually in things like this. They might have repetition or exaggeration. They might make things a bit bigger than they seem, or only have one side of the argument. The audience is everyone. It can be anyone who is trying to convince another person of something else. You might have written a text that persuades. Some texts are posters, persuasive letters, speeches, or advertisements on TV. So just remember that to identify the audience and the purpose of texts, we can use different language, facts, emotions, and text features to help us figure out what the text is trying to do and who it's for. See you later, everybody!